Alright, hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast Dougie Doug. In today's episode I'm going to be discussing Monday Night Football Week 12 of the 2023 NFL season. Bears versus Vikings. And man, what an ugly game this was. Honestly, neither team deserved to win, but the Bears squeaked by with a last-second field goal to win the game. Field goals were all the Bears could score, while the Vikings could only put up 10 points. And with that, we're going to get right into the action, starting with the Chicago Bears, whose defense was able to ground the passer not in this game, creating some major turnovers, 4 interceptions, mainly. However, this Bears offense is still bad, and the Justin Fields question will still persist because he did not have an inspiring performance in this game. He had a couple of fumbles, and I think everybody knows the story. The Bears have a couple first-round picks. The first one with the Panthers being the #1 overall pick. Right? What do you do about that quarterback position? Well, if you had to use this game as to provide an answer, then the answer would be moving on. The Bears were able to coast throughout the game on generating 4 turnovers by the way of 4 interceptions, and still required a field goal in the 2-minute drive to snatch a victory from their division rivals. The first win for the Bears over an NFC North opponent under head coach Matt Eberflus. Chicago needed a go-ahead touchdown with just under 6 minutes left to play after the first of 2 Justin Fields fumbles. Fields would fumble again on the subsequent drive, but still defensive play gave the ball back to the Bears with under 2 minutes left to play. Fields would march the team down the field to set up the game-winning field goal with 10 seconds remaining for an ugly win. Then next up for the Bears is another divisional opponent in the Lions in Week 13. Khalil Herbert saw the first carry of the game for the Bears, but was quickly relinquished to change of pace duties behind rookie running back Rashawn Johnson. Deontay Foreman missed the contest with ankle and shin injuries, but appears likely to return to some sort of timeshare after his successes with Herbert out earlier in the season. And DJ Moore has now surpassed 100 yards through the air in 4 of 7 games. The quarterback Justin Fields started and finished this year, hitting 96 yards in another. His 13 targets on 37 pass attempts. Henley led the team with the next closest pass catcher notching just 7 targets. There's no doubt in the connection between Moore and Fields for as long as Fields remains healthy. So yeah, for the Bears in this game, great defensive showing, terrible offensive showing. Also shout out to the kicker who made all 4 field goals. Minnesota Vikings. So the momentum train here comes to a halt. Minnesota got out to a rough start this season. They were in the hole with quite a few losses, and then they were able to rebound and go on a bit of a run until they got to Lambeau against Green Bay, and then Kirk Cousins tears his Achilles, and well, for all intents and purposes, it's understandable if people thought the season was over. However, Josh Dobbs acquired in a trade that the deadline came through and provided a bit of a spark, provided a bit of magic, if you will, spark or magic, take whichever one you want, for the Vikings offense. However, I think it's safe to say after last week against Denver and this game against Chicago that the magic of Josh Dobbs, or the Josh Dobbs effect on the Vikings, has worn off. And it was kind of loud last week with people calling for Jaron Hall to start. And I can only imagine how much louder it's going to be this week with the calls for Jaron Hall. Although I think if Vikings were to change quarterback, it would be Nick Mullins taking snaps under center. Regardless, though, it is evident that without Kirk Cousins at quarterback, the Vikings they're in a rough spot right now. Dobbs got to hit a rough patch, but I don't see the Vikings changing quarterback. I would understand if they did, but I don't think they are. I think they're going to try to continue to ride with Dobbs and see if he can bounce back in Game 3, which won't be, and bounce back in the next game, which won't be until Week 14 against the Raiders. Vikings are on a bye. Just to sum up Josh Dobbs' performance, he committed 4 turnovers before leading a go-ahead touchdown drive with just under 6 minutes remaining in the 4th quarter to put the Vikings up 10-9. They would recover the second of 2 Justin Fields fumbles on the subsequent possession, but won 3 and out following the turnover. Dobbs watched from the sidelines as Field marched across the field and set up a game-winning field goal with 10 seconds remaining. The 4 turnovers marked a career high for the veteran journeyman, not exactly the record he set out to accomplish in Week 12. The Vikings fall to 6-6 with a loss and head to their bye, clinging to the 7th and final wild card spot in the NFC Dobbs will be back in action week 14 when the Vikings travel to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. So that was another thing too. The defense for the Vikings was certainly opportunistic in creating some turnovers. Granted, they gave up some big plays and didn't really get enough stops, but when they did get stops, when they did create turnovers, the Vikings offense didn't really do anything with them. The final stat line for Alexander Madison, 10 carries, 52 yards, 11 yards, and 2 receptions, does leave a lot to be desired for a starting running back, but he at least maintained control of the backfield over Ty Chandler. Madison's 12 running back opportunities doubled the 6 of Chandler, and the 5.2 yards per carry mark came against the defense, allowing the fewest yards per carry this season. T.J. Hawkinson and the rest of the Minnesota offense struggled to get anything going against the Bears on Monday night before the veteran tight end found the end zone on a crossing route to the middle of the end zone to give the Vikings their first lead in the game with just under 6 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. It looked like the Vikings were going to hold on for an ugly win after recovering Justin Fields' fumble on the subsequent drive, but they quickly ran out and gave the ball back to the Bears and allowed them to set up at the game-winning field goal with 10 seconds remaining. So the Vikings, with this loss, 6-6, sitting at the number 7 spot in the postseason race. Do I think they drop it? Unlikely. I still think only one team from the NFC South is making the postseason, and the Packers and Rams have had a nice little bit of a mini resurgence, but I don't know if that's quite enough to say put them in action. I lost my train of thought right there. You know what? We're just going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button down below.